Obsidian Entertainment are one of my favourite Xbox game studios developers. Pentiment is one of my favourite games this generation, and Grounded was a game that won my heart as someone who doesn't even like survival games. RPGs are really their bread and butter though, and I am a fan of both the first Outer Worlds game and Fallout New Vegas, with the latter being significantly better. Obsidian have released an RPG this year already with Avowed, which I absolutely adored, so I was excited to be getting another game in such quick succession. The Outer Worlds 2 is a direct sequel to the first game and on a grander scale, but did I find it to be a better experience? What's up? How's it going, people? Welcome to Casual Gamer Reviews. If you want to support the channel, then please leave a like and subscribe, or if you don't like it, then leave a thumbs down and let me know how I can be better for you. The Outer Worlds 2 took me approximately 40 hours to complete, reviewed on Xbox Series X. In the Outer Worlds 2, you play as an agent of an intergalactic organization called the Earth Directorate. The Earth Directorate are effectively the space police, but specifically exist to combat corrupt governments and corporations. This game starts with your character creator, where you can form your agent and pick their skills and traits. These are the foundation blocks for your RPG experience. The first thing to pick after the cosmetics is your background. You can pick things like ex-convict or lawbringer. What backgrounds do is they open up dialogue options and open routes of conversations that are specific to your character. They basically exist for enriching the role-playing side rather than the gameplay side. Next up are traits, which will, for the most part, passively affect gameplay. Examples of these would be Lucky, which offers a 5% critical hit chance boost and unlocks unique dialogue opportunities, or Suave, which unlocks a 10% vendor discount and increases bounty tolerance by 20%. A big part of the Outer Worlds 2, and in my opinion to its benefit, are the negative traits. You are first introduced to these in the character creator, where if you pick two positive traits like the ones I just listed, you will also be forced to take a negative trait. These are limited to 3 in this starting section, which are Dumb, Abrasive, and Sickly. Dumb permanently locks 5 of the skills so you can never level them up, as well as opening up special dialogue options. Abrasive means you can never raise your faction level above a certain bar, meaning you will lose out on discounts and help. Sickly means you will be more susceptible to toxicity and injuries. These are all gameplay shifting and really add some flavor to this RPG experience. The negative traits are woven into this title deeper though, as you can actually come across them constantly throughout its runtime. The Outer Worlds 2 has a unique gameplay system where it tracks the way you play and uses that to propose to you a different playstyle. They call these ones flaws, and they come in many shapes and sizes. Once a flaw is identified due to something you do a lot in the game, a little window pops up and you can choose whether to accept it or reject it. Let me explain some of the ones I came across to display to you the range of different mechanics they offer. There was a flaw called overprepared, which came to me as I always reloaded my guns before they hit empty. This flaw would give all my guns a 50% larger magazine, but if they ever hit empty, I would get a damage debuff of 40% for 8 seconds. Bad knees was a flaw I saw as I was crouching a lot. This one would give you 50% increased movement speed while crouching, but its negative effect was whenever you stood up or crouched, your knees would pop and alert enemies within a 10-meter radius. The last example of a flaw I will give is the bibliomania flaw, which I had offered to me as I was reading a lot of books. The positive effect of this one was a 20% increase to my base health, but the downside was that my base health would be reduced by 30% for 2 minutes immediately after talking to someone, whether that be a companion or a random NPC. There are many more flaws the game offered me, let alone the ones I didn't even see, and each one of them changed the experience. Some were far more drastic than the ones I listed, and even came with their own warning that they would probably be best avoided for a first playthrough. In the end, I think I only accepted 4 of the flaws that came my way, but the existence of this system itself is a massive plus for this game. It adds that layer of creativity that actively impacts and changes each individual's experience, which is worth an applause. Going back to the character creator, and there is one final choice to make, and that are your skills. There are 12 skills to choose from, and you really must select where you want to allocate your points to customize your playthrough. They exist in such a way that you must specialize, as each of the 12 have a max skill level of 20. Your character level is capped at 30, and each level grants you 2 skill points. I believe there is a flaw that gives you more, but for most people it means you will only have 60 skill points to allocate. The way that worked out for me was to pick one skill I wanted to base my build around and take that up to the max level, and then pick 3 or 4 more skills to level up and round out the build. A lot of the skills benefit combat, but some of them are necessary for getting into certain areas during exploration or passing dialogue checks in quests. For example, I maxed out the explosive skill as I wanted to be a grenade maniac. This skill increased my explosive damage output and reduced the explosive damage I received, making me a true bombardier on the field of combat. I could also use this skill in exploration to blow open safes or locked away areas. My support skills were guns, which increased ranged weapon damage, lockpicking, which is always useful in exploration, science, which helped with crafting and dialogue, and observation, which helped me find hidden areas and pass speech checks. You could do a completely different build to me though, as any good RPG would allow, as the other skills are melee, sneak, engineering, hack, medical, speech, and leadership. All of these provide their own buffs and unique systems, so the choice is yours to make. When you reach the open world, the moon system is your oyster and you are free to do how you please. You can randomly explore to find hidden treasure and side quests, you could engage in combat, you could get to know your companions better, or you could just get along with the main quest. Combat is formed of guns, melee weapons, and grenades for the offensive, and armor for the defensive. This title works with a rarity system we have become so accustomed to in the modern age. The rarer it is, the more attachments and mods can be added. Some will come fitted with mods already, but you can also buy and or craft your own to enhance any weapons and armor. The crafting system itself is quite extensive. You need to first find schematics to learn how to craft items, which can either be found in exploration or bought from a vendor. Then you must have the resources to craft it. You can also break down weapons and armor that you already own to get more resources if you wish. Mods and attachments can be applied at a workbench, and you can also upgrade your companions there. The combat feels good and it flows well, but it is pretty standard for a first-person game. Where it does start to deviate from the norm and become better is with the gadgets and the special science gear. The latter is far more interesting, and so I will start with the former. There are 6 gadgets in total, but only 4 I will speak about here, as I think a couple are best left for you to discover. These 4 are the energy shield, time dilation device, thruster boots, and an acidic dematerializer. The energy shield and time dilation device are very useful with a guns blazing approach, as one provides you with an additional shield and the other slows down time so you can easily pick off enemies. I will let you guess which is which. The thruster boots are best used for exploration, as they give you the ability to double jump but also break a fall as long as it's not too much of a distance. And lastly, the dematerializer is used for stealth. This was one I didn't use much as I wasn't playing a stealth playthrough, but I wish I could have used it more as it was really cool. What this does is it will spray acid onto a dead body and burn it out of existence, allowing you to continue your murderous but undetected rampage. The science gear, as I alluded to, is much more interesting. These are super unique weapons and armor that do a specific thing that cannot be done otherwise. On the weapon side, some examples were a shrink ray, which would shrink enemies down so small you could step on them, or a pop-up gun which fired corporate ad drones to distract and explode in the enemy's face. There's even a rainbow knife that turns melee combat into a rhythm game where you continue to get increased damage if you slash to the musical beat. On the armor side, there are only 2 I'm currently aware of, but they are both great. The first is a suit that allows you to hover and keeps you alive when at 0 health for a bit. The other, and my personal favorite, is Gary. Gary is a science armor that has a creature attached to it. This creature not only has his own voice lines, but also will randomly strike out in combat to hurt an enemy. This damage is scaled with science and medical skills, which was great for me having a science nerd of a character. It is worth mentioning here that your companions can and should also be utilized in combat. There are 6 companions to find in the world, and you can have 2 with you at any time. You don't have to though, you can go completely solo if you want. When it comes to the combat, the companions have their own weapon type and will attack based on that. Each has a special that can be unleashed when their skill bar is full, and each can also have their armor and weapon damage leveled up to 2 times max. Some are focused on healing, others on stealth, and others on all-out attack. I didn't find this companion system to be that interesting, to be completely honest. The Outer Worlds 2 has its own healing system too, with the inhalers. You can equip several different inhaler types that will heal in different amounts, but each will be toxic, which will fill up a toxicity bar. If you go over this bar, you'll be intoxicated and not be able to heal until it is fully depleted. In summary, the combat is pretty basic, and if it wasn't for the science equipment, it probably would have suffered as being generic, but I can't deny it does feel a little uninspired. I was probably at my highest level of enjoyment when I was exploring the planets and needlessly picking up every item I could find on my adventures. The Outer Worlds 2 does have good open world exploration which doesn't suffer from bloat. If you see something in the distance, it is almost always worth going over to see if you can discover any secrets or rare resources. There is no carrying capacity either, which is an absolute godsend as I have some serious need to pick up quite literally everything I see. A lot of this stuff is junk and the developers know I do it, as they included a sell all junk button at the vendors, which gets rid of all that stuff I picked up while simultaneously rewarding me with monetary compensation. I can easily say I had my most serotonin hits when I was out free roaming and plundering dilapidated buildings or lockpicking my way into rooms I shouldn't be in. It was always fun and it was always fulfilling. The open world is technically split into open zones, as you would need to enter your ship and choose a new planet to fly to in order to explore that space. I have no issue with this though, as it does make it more immersive to not have one big open connected world when you are technically traveling between planets and space stations. The final branch of the Outer Worlds 2 gameplay are the many quests. Throughout the main quest, there are several big choices you will make that will not only shape your story, but shape the star system around you. Your choices have environmental changes and NPC changes. You can kill most people, you can befriend anyone, you can betray anyone, you can destroy whole towns if you want to. There was a companion I never even found in my entire game due to choices I had made in the story that I was just completely unaware of. The developers have written so much into this game, but they are fully aware and not afraid that you won't even see most of it, as it will be tied to other decisions. This is what a true RPG should feel like in my eyes, and I think Obsidian have mastered it. The Outer Worlds 2 main quest revolves around a betrayal within the Earth Directorate at the start, which spans a heroic or villainous, depending on your preference, intergalactic mission. Hot on the pursuit of the traitor, you will interact with four main factions that make up this world: Aunties Choice, the Protectorate, the Order, and the Cult of the Glorious Dawn. Aunties Choice are the big corporatists and were birthed into power due to a merger with Space's Choice from the first game. The Protectorate are a dictatorship where they have a sovereign leader that they all worship and have extremely strict and regimented lifestyles that are chosen for them by the state. The Order are a people who are led by seers and prophets of mathematics. They use this math to create formulas to predict the future and feel they are determined by them. The Glorious Dawn are a cult that worships the Rifts. Rifts are cracks in space and time that appear randomly and will kill anyone who touches them. Each four of these are intriguing and completely diverse from each other. Aunties Choice are what we are most used to in the real world, with their whole society driven by profits, corporate greed, and stepping on others to get ahead. A lot of this is displayed in an exaggerated fashion and can be enjoyed through Obsidian's prowess with comedic writing, but honestly, these days, it doesn't even feel like satire. The Protectorate are your dystopian society where you conform or you are made to conform. They have something called mental refreshment, which they blast through their propaganda as something special, but what it really is an electrical lobotomy to dumb people down enough to conform again. It's pretty fucked up. The Glorious Dawn are sadists really, who enjoy killing and all aspire to the eventual goal of dying to a rift and being reborn. You can't have good world building without a cult, can you? For me personally, the Order was the most interesting faction. This society is not one I think I've seen before in a game, at least not to memory. A people completely governed by the equations of maths and probability, not to mention their leader is a total badass, especially when she has her combat armor on. You can mold your own story and goals through interactions with these four in any way you like. You can completely avoid them all if you wish, but I did find that they contributed positively to the overall story experience. Each one of your companions are tied to one of these factions too, that is, if you find them all. The story itself can get quite rich with sci-fi goodness, and I do think it is back to Obsidian's better side of writing, as I enjoyed it more than Avowed story, but I still don't think it's their best. It has good pacing, multiple outcomes, and impactful decisions, but I do think it starts stronger than it finishes. Visually, The Outer Worlds 2 shares a legacy with Avowed as being the prettiest games in Obsidian's portfolio. They are markedly improved compared to their other RPGs like The Outer Worlds and Pillars of Eternity. The planet environments are gorgeous and filled with colour, each with their own type of climate. The first is what I would call tropical alien chic. It is filled with space trees and lush fields of vegetation surrounded by the ocean. The second is more like a desert, but is filled with caverns of these beautiful sparkling meteoric rocks. There is also a wasteland type planet that is plagued with lightning, a frozen over planet to give that classic snowy area, and a handful of space stations doubling as bustling cities. The sci-fi setting greatly appealed to my tastes, and the set dressing is superb. The heavy mechanical NASA-style devices littered across the world, the retro-futuristic look of the computer terminals, the simplicity of a cyberpunk-looking bar with its neon lights, and the many robots and droids that are created for a variety of different things all spoke to me on such an impressive level. There are two specific areas of interest I completely fell in love with. The first was Laplace's garden on the frozen tundra moon of Cloister. This is an area constructed by the Order and is effectively a town with a giant observatory / greenhouse. It is an awe-inspiring step away from the ice and snow into this massive open area with its own vibrant gardens and glistening lake. It truly is something to behold. On the complete other side of the spectrum was the mental refreshment facility on the moon of Praetor. This is where the Protectorate send their less compliant population to have a reset, shall we say. This was not beautiful and vibrant, but clinical and chilling, filled with the futuristic devices that would lean more on the side of horror, and it was a disturbing area to experience. From the fancy gilded halls above at the entrance to the gritty dungeons below, it was something that I surely won't forget. Obsidian usually aren't known for having the most impressive character models, especially when it comes to voice alignment, and I would say it's still not the best here, but probably their best to date. I would say it's pretty inseparable from Avowed in that regard. However, I wasn't too blown away with the companion designs. Arsla is probably the most standout, especially when she is wearing her cultist mask, but I also have to give a special shout out to Tristan's armor, which is sick. I do have to mention that during my time with the Outer Worlds 2, I experienced several bugs. At first, it was visual and I would be getting pretty heavy frame dips in areas, especially the first moon, but then it did also start expanding into sound where people would be cutting in and out during dialogue. This was pretty frustrating, and I would say that it would happen almost every couple of hours during my playthrough. Towards the end of the game, I was working hard completing quests so I could experience a particular outcome for the story, but then the final quest bugged out, so I never actually got to see the fruits of my labor. I can't deny, I was really pissed off in that moment. I stepped through that and completed the game and was satisfied with the eventual end that I got, but I really wanted to see the ending that I worked towards. I have quite a high tolerance for bugs and can usually get over visual and audio issues, but quest breaking bugs are really not good. I did only experience it in this one quest. The Outer Worlds 2 has an all-original soundtrack composed by Oleksandr Lozalchuk, who also was a composer for Horizon Forbidden West. It is quite an eclectic soundtrack, taking on many different elements to fit alongside the main factions, as well as capturing the ethereal adventures of space travel. The music for Aunties Choice is founded upon 60s era corporate advertisements and jingles associated with that. The Protectorate leans on a more Soviet feeling sound, whilst the Order is something I could only describe as an orchestral adventure through ancient times. Something I would expect to hear when Indiana Jones discovers a lost relic. It was an enjoyable soundtrack, but probably not one I will be returning to. The voice cast is full of actors I am unfamiliar with, but I did think the quality was high. The companions are all great, and the other high profile NPCs like the leaders of the factions are to a good standard also. I want to shout out Tristan and Marisol from your ragtag crew, as it's not often in games that you get crew members who are older, so this was nice to have and makes this particular experience more special. Exploration is key in an open world RPG, and among your adventures is a plethora of side content to experience. You can dive into undiscovered ruins or massive facilities hidden off the beaten track to find treasures like the science equipment I explained earlier. There are also several side missions you can discover to enhance your faction approval rating. One of the gadgets I got, which I used for almost the entire game, I found from exploring, and I don't think I would have got it if I had just done the main story. Other side quests include the companion ones. Each companion has their own small stories outside of the robot Valerie, who is tied to collectibles. I did all the ones for the companions I had, which is to say all of them apart from the one I never could find. Honestly, none of these were particularly interesting, but they did open up some cool areas to explore and allowed for hectic combat experiences. Ours one in particular went full balls to the wall because I refused to do it quietly. There are one main type of collectible in the Outer Worlds 2, and these come in the form of pitch ball and toss ball cards. Each of these are based on an Obsidian employee and has their picture on the card, which is a really cool concept. There are 100 of these cards to find scattered throughout the system, and each have their own permanent passive buff. One could give an increase to health, and one could increase critical chance, another could increase damage. I found about 35 just through natural exploration, and while just getting a couple won't make you notice any difference, when they start stacking up, you do start to feel more powerful. It's nice to have a collectible that benefits you in more ways than just ticking a box. The Outer Worlds 2 is built to be experienced more than once if you want to. There are enough systems in place and build variety to have at least 2 completely different playthroughs, if not 3. With a runtime of 30ish hours, that isn't that deterring either. This one is for the RPG sickos. The Outer Worlds 2 is a good game crafted by great developers. It has deep RPG systems that allow for rich variety, branching narratives, and choices that have impact. There are some really cool additions with the science equipment, and the environments are stunning. On top of all this, the floor system is a truly masterful addition to sway people into trying something new. Unfortunately, it is held back by an uninteresting companion system, a story that isn't their best, and a range of bugs. As I said at the start, Obsidian Entertainment are one of my favorite developers under the Xbox umbrella. Sadly, the Outer Worlds 2, in my opinion, is not only second in name, but also their second best RPG this year. The Outer Worlds 2 gets a casual gamer score of 7.5 out of 10. If you want more reviews like this, check out the channel. I have recently uploaded reviews of Ghost of Yotei and Dispatch. The holidays are coming, and what better way to spend than gaming, so check out my videos of the best games coming in December. If you enjoyed this content, please consider leaving a like and subscribe, or if you don't like it, then leave a thumbs down and I'll try to be better next time. Let me know what you thought of the Outer Worlds 2 in the comments below, and for everything else, casual gamer, keep it here. Peace and love.